Hey there, YouTube. It's Kurt here. Today I'm going to talk about this deck profile, and if you're anything like me, you understand that the meta has just been insane and borderline unplayable. And normally, when it comes to control decks, I used to have a very, very negative view of control decks. To a degree, I still do, but now it's like every single combo deck out there has gotten to the extreme of being unfair, that right now it's like every deck that's playable is unfair. And that's why I think control decks are actually right now more interactive than your combo decks. And that's why I've wanted to come up with something that I don't care about spending money to beat the best decks. I just want to beat the best decks on a budget. I want to do something that just completely screws them over and just, if they're unfair, punish them for being unfair. So that's exactly what I've done with this deck profile. This is the perfect counter to most of the meta decks that are running around out there right now. So obviously, is this deck particularly focuses. It's not like it does have elements of stun, and I understand that is frustrating. But like, we're not playing Inspector Border, we're not playing Summon Limit, we're not playing Fossil Dyna. We're not shutting off those fundamental aspects of the game. The only fundamental aspect we're shutting off is the graveyard. So there's still a high ceiling for interactivity instead of having a deck that just says your opponent cannot play the game. So I don't think this is a pure stun. I would call it like kind of a hybrid between stun and Grunmaju control. I think it's more just like banish control. That's the best way to put the description of this deck. So what we're running here is, and it has really unique interactions. So if you're actually playing against Dogmatika, if you're normal summoning Banisher, if you normal summon Banisher against Dogmatika, they essentially cannot play the game whatsoever because everything has to go to their graveyard in order to resolve properly. So Forbidden Droplet, their search spell, their trap can activate, but it cannot resolve correctly. So if they activate it while this is on the field, they've essentially just wasted a card, which is absolutely hilarious, and you have just enough attack points to get over anything. So you're right now, Super Poly is actually great again. So that's a huge staple of this card. But I'll go ahead and give you the rundown here. Also, the matchup with Eldlich is very good. If you banish everything, obviously that's really, really good. Normally, if you normal summon Banisher the Radiance, you combine it with something else. If you have Judgment, Ash, or there can be only one, essentially you've just won the game. It all depends. It can be a harder matchup, but essentially you do win that matchup most of the time, especially if you get the opportunity to go first. All right, so we have, obviously we're running Banisher. A really good normal summon is Thunder King. Again, a very kind of stun-worthy card, but there are cute things that you can do with it. It's a mistake, but also the fact that you can negate a summon off of it by sending it to Grave can be really good. Obviously, that does conflict with our Banish a little bit because you have to send it with a Grave, but there's contradictions in every deck. It's all about whether or not it's worth it. So we're running that. We're running 3 Grunmaju. We're running 2 Eater of Millions. We're also running the package of the Gamma package, which is insane, and I don't recommend it for most going first strategies, but right now if you do Extravagance, you can negate an Ash with it and then get a free Draco Berserker, or if you don't have your normal summon, which you don't have very many, you just don't summon any monsters, set 4, and then you pass, which can be really, really effective. Then we have 3 Ash, 2 Nibiru, and 1 Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre does conflict a little bit, but it's just like a generic go second kind of buffer there. I thought about playing Dimension Shifter. We do have that in the side, but yeah, again, like just low decisions. You have room to work with there. You can play Imperm, but again, this is budget, so I plan on playing budget for the time being. So yeah, and then we have our pots. We have 6 of them. We have we also have Duality, so that's another 2. We also have Super Poly. You may think that Super Poly does conflict with Pot of Duality. I do not believe it does, because if you add it off Duality, again, you can just set it and then wait and then Super Poly on your opponent's turn. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. And Super Poly, insanely good right now. We have the targets in the extra deck to kind of cover most of the scenarios right now. A lot of times, yeah, again, Starving Venom really works for the Verte Anaconda and the Dragoon. So, yeah, you will be able to deal with that board. So I've thought about bumping that up to 3 just because Super Poly got so much better so quickly. Yeah, just an instant neg for your opponent. It's amazing. But again, for a trap lineup, we got the Solemn Brigade. We only have 5 floodgates, I believe. Yeah, we have the order. We have the TC Boo, and we have the Macrocosmos. So a lot of unfair things going on in this deck, but right now Yu-Gi-Oh is just an unfair card game, and that's kind of what we have to accept. And there are some really interesting game states, and it's really cheesy and funny, and that's what I love about it. Then the extra deck, obviously, we have all the targets. We have Draco Berserker because yeah, that's just free if we get to like go off of extravagance and get the Gamma. Free Draco Berserker, nothing wrong with that. We also have the Super Poly targets, and we also have like Waking targets. I don't really like Waking. I've tested it a lot past a couple of weeks, and sometimes it is really funny and it can be really effective. Most of the time, it's just really awkward. Like if you set 4 other back row, a lot of times you'll have Judgment or something protecting it anyways, and or you'll like use those first, and it'll either be a dead card or just something that keeps your opponent on their feet. So I'm not playing that 3. Most of the time, just anti-spell is just better because a lot of people are doing Lightning Storm and things like that. Yeah, for me, that's just better. So we'll get into a couple replays here, and you can see some of these replays are just incredibly, incredibly funny. Again, this deck does, of course, every deck loses occasionally, especially if you're going second, but a lot of times you do have the ability to go second just because you're playing a good hand trap lineup, and you got Super Poly, which can be an incredible, incredible sack. So yeah, here's a Dogmatika replay. Obviously, this is not going to go well for the opponent. This is probably my favorite replay. This deck does run into some consistency issues, but that's to be expected with almost any control deck. But you can see, yeah, our opponent cannot play whatsoever. And if you're taking this to locals and you're pissing off the people that are spending $500-$600 like on all the new cards to add to their already like $300 or $400 deck, well, that's just hilarious. And I really don't care. At this point, I just really don't care because every deck is designed. Each new deck they design it to do something extremely unfair. We're not going to get a reasonable ban list for a very long time. So the game is just the Wild West right now. So if you're going to play in the Wild West, you might as well have something that is really funny or brings you some sort of tears of happiness because your opponent has tears of suffering. So that's all I got. Peace out, guys. Have a great one.